Hello and welcome everyone. So in this video we are going to take a look on how we can access the HTML DOM. Okay, first of all, how the DOM look like. Now we are looking at the HTML document which has a HTML opening closing. Inside you have a head, inside you have body. Inside body you have a lot of things. You can have a div tag has a h1 paragraph. All the elements will be inside it. Anchor tag, text and all, right? So how the whole picture look like? This is the document. This look like a tree kind of a structure, right? So this is called as a DOM tree. And whenever we wanted to access a particular node, we are traversing from top to bottom. So look, okay, I want to just change the anchor tag, the link of this particular tag. I wanted to change the text coming in this h1 tag. So all these kind of DOM manipulations you will be able to do using JavaScript APIs. But first of all, what is DOM? Document Object Model. So whatever the HTML being published on your browser, that is actually transpiled into this document object model DOM tree. We are calling this is how your, if you just split out into your nodes or the tags, HTML tags, then this is how your tree will look like. We have HTML inside your body will have a div. Then consider something like this. So inside HTML I have a body, inside I have a div has a two childs, h4 and button. Okay, to access this DOM, we are going to cover everything about how to access the DOM, what is DOM, okay, all these things. So there is a document object provided by JavaScript because we are going to access something from this document. So JavaScript will come into the picture. When you wanted to style something or for this DOM, then style sheet will come into the picture, CSS files. If you wanted to play around with the text, with the images, with the link, with all the kind of animations you wanted to play around with the data and text, then you will be using JavaScript to manipulate it. Because what JavaScript will do, it will try to iterate, it will try to find the node, it will change the link of anchor tag, it will change the image, it will change the inner HTML text of a particular node. So JavaScript will be able to do all these things using some JavaScript APIs. So first of all, what all DOM methods we have? DOM methods are nothing but those methods which are responsible for accessing the DOM and changing things for you. We consider this magic which is being performed here, like hello, then magic, right? So when I click onto this button, I'm changing something into this label and this label is getting changed. So you can see I have a button, I'm clicking onto the magic and it is doing document.get element by ID. So there are many ways to access a DOM node. So this is one of them. So what I did is I'm providing ID selector app. So what I can do, I mean, you can put a class, you can put an ID. All these different methods are there in JavaScript to access a DOM, like document.get element by ID, document.query selector, document.query selector, all document.get element by tag name, by class name. All these methods are there to access the node. This is going to give you the first node which is having ID app. I mean, it is going to return you the single node. Query selector all will give you all the nodes having the ID as app. So you need to decide what you wanted to get, either a single node or array of node. Then in array of node you just iterate onto them and just try to grab them. Okay, so we'll just quickly see what all different APIs we have, like document.get element by ID. So what it does is it is going to just iterate onto this document model. It will see, okay, there is app ID, and just put magic in the inner HTML of that. Okay, so document.get element by ID, you just provide the ID.inner HTML will access the content of that DOM node and it will replace that property. So inner HTML, so easiest way to access a particular content of a DOM node, you can just do an inner HTML will give you the value. So there are other ways also to do this, like document.get element by tag name. So get element by tag name, get element by class name. So we can just talk about all these things. What are the different responsibilities they are having. Okay, I will just try to put some comments here, and inside comments we'll talk about them. Okay, document.get element by ID. So find an element by element ID. Document.get element by tag name. Like tag name can be a simple these tags. I'm talking about the button tag, div, body and all. These all are tags. And document.get element by class name. This is nothing but, okay, I wanted to put class name instead of this. So class app. So you can just use document.get element by class name. Okay, these are the different ways to uh, access a DOM node. Now what you can do is you can change the property behavior. If you wanted to change the attribute, if you wanted to change the inner HTML, or if you wanted to change the style. Okay, so there are many ways to do this. We just need to just care what we are going to do, what we are going to change. Are you going to change the some particular attribute, or you are just going to change the inner HTML of that? Okay, I will just try to summarize it. So inner HTML, I will just try to zoom it. So document.get element by id. So what we are doing is document.get element by id dot inner HTML. So new HTML content will be published here. So you can just say whatever you want, hello world, and this can be done in different ways. So document.get element by id, it will just get the only single element, and then you will be able to do it. Okay. Now what you can do is it is going to give you the element. Okay. So what you can do is, so here you can just play around with this. Okay, what other things you can do? Element dot attribute. So attribute equal to, you can just put some particular value to a particular attribute of this DOM node. So get item dot length attributes. So it will give you all the attributes of a particular DOM node. So another thing is, if you got the element, you can just do a style dot property. Now in this style you can access any property, like I have a color property and I just wanted to change it to green. So what I'm doing is I'm accessing that particular DOM node and I'm playing around it. So inner HTML I changed the style of that particular DOM node, right? Even you can also set some property, element.set attribute, and you just provide a key and value. Okay, I have attribute is data that text, and I'm just putting some value. Okay, so you can also change the attribute value, or you can add a new attribute to a DOM node. Okay, these are just different ways to access a DOM node and changing its inner HTML, changing its property, changing its style. Okay, you can also add and delete element, like so these are actually DOM APIs which are provided us to create a new element, append the new element to the body, to the remove the element, and clear all these things, like document.create element, document.append child, remove child, replace child, document.write. So you can just look at any documentation, it covers everything. If you wanted to create a new HTML element, okay, you don't find something and you wanted to create some new element and append it to the document.body, then you will be able to do it, document.create element. Okay, so other things, let's cover the other things in the next video, because it will be too much in that case. Hello everyone, so let's continue from our previous video, and in this video we were talking about DOM, so we will extend the discussion on DOM in this video. So document object model, this talks about accessing a particular DOM node using document.get element by id, tag name, or class name. This document.get element by id will give us a single id, but consider that you have another use case where you are using this another method, get element by class name. So what it will do, it will give you the element array. You will not be able to just find this particular method here, dot on click. Okay, so what you will do is this element will just access the 0th element. If you just try to just put, so here document.get element by class name, or document.get element by tag name. So we'll just put element 1. So here you can see we have a length property. So what we can do is we can just check the length property. If the length is greater than 0, it means what do we have? We can access the element, and here we will access 0th property and dot on click. All these methods or all these properties we can access here, like dot inner HTML you can access, or you can change the style. So these are the other methods we have, document.get element by class name, tag name, or document.get element by id. id will return a single node and it is returning an array, so you have to check, okay, do we got the length greater than 0, then only just apply all these things like inner HTML, just change the style, we change the DOM behavior like this. So other than that, you can also attach a DOM event like element.onClick. There are many ways of doing it. Element.add event listener. This is another way. Like now you can see all the events. Okay, I will try to show you again. Yeah, you can see it is add event listener is having all these event name, abort, activate, or change, click, all these methods which you can see doing mouse over. So here I'm doing a click event, and this is the callback function. So this function will get executed whenever you click onto this particular element. Similarly, we have element10. This is also the some node object. So here also you can do add event listener, and you can just provide okay on key down, on key up, or you just need to provide the event name properly so that whenever it happens you should be able to get the function executed. Or another way of doing it is element1 dot on click and define a function. So the only difference is here you are adding a event listener, right? So this event listener will always be there. You have registered it for this particular DOM node, so wherever you click on it, this will get triggered and you will get the value out of it. Okay, apart from this, what we can talk about is the different ways to create element, append element, and change the elements. So create element, if you wanted to create a new element like unordered list, ULLI, you wanted to create new li and you wanted to append it in UL, so you can just use document.create element li, and once this li element is created, you can just append it. This element you can just pass the append into. So here you can it can be a parent element dot append child element. So it's a li, and parent element can be a UL, so you can do append. Okay, there are multiple ways to access the DOM using get element by ID, get element by tag name, get element by class name, get element by some CSS selectors. So CSS selectors, we have a query selector and query selector all, so that we can use in our method. So basic thing we already know that document.get element by ID and document.get element by class name, tag name. Apart from that, we can also use this query selector. Another important thing, I will just remove all the code from here. Okay, what it is doing is it will try to give us all the elements, all the nodes having class name example. Okay, so query selector all will always returns an array. There is another method query selector that is same as document.get element by ID. It will only give a single node object. Query selector all will give us all the objects. See, these are called CSS selectors, so you can specify a particular selector. Okay, in the paragraph tag I have this class example. In the paragraph tag somewhere, if you see the example, then just fetch it. So query selector, these are called CSS selectors. You can specify one or more CSS selectors to match the element. These are used to select an HTML node based on the ID, class name, type, attribute, and all. So here you can just look at the CSS selector reference, like what all CSS selectors you can pass. Okay, you can pass a single class like class 1 dot class 2. Okay, you can just provide a simple class, so it will select all the nodes having class 1 and class 2. You just provide an ID, so it is covering everything. It's a single method, can do everything. You don't need to worry about document.get element by ID or class name or tag name. Okay, it will just select all the elements having ID equal to, you can just put f name for removing the confusion. So where you see something like this, it will select all those elements. You can specify the single class, multiple classes, ID, or you can select element also. Select all the elements having paragraph tag. Okay, select all the elements having paragraph and intro class. Okay, select all paragraph element with class intro. Select all the elements, all the divs with which are having paragraph P. Select all div elements and all paragraph elements. So if you put this comma, right? So these are CSS selectors. We will talk about these in the details. Like you can do lot of things here. CSS selectors, while writing the CSS, we use all these symbols. So it will select only the paragraph only those paragraph tag which are just immediate child to a div. Okay, select all paragraph element where the parent is a div element. Div plus p, these are just a css selector. Select all paragraph element that are placed immediately after div element. Similarly, other elements are also there. So these are selectors, all different kind of selectors you can pass. Even you can just specify the input type. Okay, like select all the elements where lang which is defined equal to en. So this is property you can define on a particular node, right? Select all the elements where anchor tag is active, input type is checked, input type is default. Okay, we'll talk about this later. I mean, a lot of things you can specify in the query selector all. Okay, these are called CSS selectors, and based on this CSS selector criteria, it will fetch all the DOM. So query selector all rules all the way of accessing the DOM nodes. Okay, that's it. You can just look at the documentation what all these methods are doing. We talked about how to access the inner HTML, how to access an attribute, how to update a style of a DOM node, how to set a new attribute to a DOM node. Hello and welcome everyone. So in the previous video we were talking about document object model. So in this video we will talk about DOM and BOM, which is a browser object model. So document object model is a DOM is essentially an API that provides a standard set of object for rendering HTML and XML documents. So what does it mean? It's just a standard API interface using which we are able to access the different DOMs. We are able to do the DOM manipulation, and we are able to change the HTML DOM nodes. So if you talk about this simple HTML DOM type of nodes, there can be like in the simple XML, these are known as a nodes, right? So in HTML document also we write HTML node, HTML body, paragraph, div tag inside a body, all these constructed as a DOM elements. Okay, so if we just see, I'll just directly come to the definition. So available methods in the DOM, right? We'll talk about get element by ID, get element by tag names, get element by class names, query selector and query selector all. So these are the DOM node methods. I mean, you can say the different APIs provided by the document object model to access different nodes and play around it. You can just change the style, you can just add an event listener, you can change the inner HTML of the content or text content of the HTML DOM node like this. Get element by ID, it will give you the node. Now you can play around it. Get element by tag name, class name, query selector will is same as document.get element by ID. So it will just give us a single node based on this particular query selector, CSS selector. Here this is a different selectors. What does it mean is inside li we have a current class, inside this ul you have a menu. I mean, select only that ul tag which is has a menu class. Inside that you have a li, and select only the anchor tag. Okay, so let's just not talk about it, but for the reference there is a jQuery is used to be a framework which also do the same thing, but always when we actually access the DOM APIs from the JavaScript interface, that is always fastest. So Angular, React, Vue.js, all are actually third-party libraries. What actually they are doing, they are providing us an interface to access the DOM. But when you use these native methods, document.query selector, get element by ID, and get element by class name and tag name, these are always going to be the faster because these are the browser native APIs. And here, if you just talk about simple jQuery, it is taking more time than these methods. Okay, similarly, we have a browser object model, and browser object model is just an interface to access the browser windows object. And these are some of the browser windows like Anchor, Forms, Images, Links, Navigator, Geolocation, History APIs, Document APIs. So if we just talk about simple thing is what is in the window object, you can see this is window object and this is the document object. So in the document object, you can do a lot of things. You can like document.get element by ID. If you have already some IDs defined, then you can just take a look onto it. Otherwise, I will just say document.get element by tag name, and I will put a div. So here you can see I got an array of 198 elements. So they are starting with the div. Okay. Similarly, you can you also use other methods, get element by class name or document.query selector. And I just provided a div. You can see the same 198 element I'm getting. To get a particular DOM node, you need to just inspect the document. So if you just see, we can look at the document, what this document is having in the body, and we will pick one particular ID if we are able to get. Okay, let's do the, this is the ID we got, right? So we'll try to inspect around it. So what I can say, document dot get element by ID. So I got the element. Now you can assign it to some variable. I can use a const, or so I got document dot get element by ID. I got the element. Now I can access it. So what all you can do is element dot inner text, inner HTML. So this is the inner HTML. I can change it. Okay, so you can see now the element inner text is this. Okay, what else you can do is all these different things. You can add a event listener dot style dot color. Now if you just try to access the element, what this element is this, right? So element, you can also access get attributes, what all attribute it is having. Sorry, get attribute. So we have this element. So you can see it is having one attribute, class and dir attribute, right? So element dot we can access attributes. So you can see this is giving us the map of attributes. Okay, it has at the 0th attribute ID, class, dir, right? So if I just say this is an object attribute directory, you can also change the value of an attribute, element dot set attribute. I wanted to set the new value of dir to something else. Right now it is hello, and you can again see all the attribute map. Okay, it has been changed to hello, right? So these are the different methods we have. Element dot add event listener, or you can just define the on click, all these methods, on click, on change, and you can define a function what you want it to do when the on click happens on this. Or element dot add event listener. So here these are the different methods you can add. I will just add a click, and this is my function. So this function will get executed whenever you are doing a click event onto this. So there are different DOM events you can apply onto this, and there is a huge list of you can set huge list of attributes. Okay, what if you have an array of elements like document dot get element by tag name, and I put tag name as div. Okay, and I'm just trying to access the 0th element. Okay, this is the container. So I will just assign it in the element, get in the element, and we will see what it is having. You can say this is having container, and also it is having some childs, right? So can we access the childs? So these are the childrens. You can see it is giving us the collection of all the childrens, which is having header, div, and footer, right? So from the childrens also, child 1, I can just get the first child, which is again a HTML DOM node. Children, and I will just get the 0th node. So you can just get the child 1 is this now. Okay, now we got the child 1. It can have further children. So it is like a DOM tree, right? We are traversing around it. And if you just see the child 1, all the methods and all the APIs are again available. Child 1 dot inner HTML, inner text. You can just play around all the methods around it. Okay, so this is how we actually these are the DOM APIs. Similarly, we have a browser APIs, which we are calling as a BOM browser object model. Okay, window object. This was I'm looking for window dot. You can see there are different APIs we are going to access. Window dot history, window dot iframes, window.forms if you have forms available. So I'm talking about all these things. You can just access frames, history, location, window.location, window.storage. So any kind of storage if you are doing it. So we'll talk about local storage in the coming sessions, local storage API. So this is the location, current location we are having. Okay, in the URL, this is my URL of this particular website. Look like protocol, path name, origin, href. This is the link, host name, host, and hash. Okay, window.history API. Currently, what is my history? Window.history. I think there are other methods which we can access. History.go push state, current state, right? So you can push a new state and redirect it to there, back and forward. So if I click on it, it will go to the last previous page, like we have a browser back and forward button. Okay, apart from that, we have a window.location, forms, and all the other APIs. So window.document, I mean, this we have already talked about. This is the same document which we are getting by doing this. And in the window.document, we can just access all these things. How many forms we have, how many anchor tags we have, how many, all these different collections, images, links, locations. I think we are having 9 images, right? And individual image attributes are here. It's a big list. Okay, this is how we can access the window object. Document object is a part of window object, which we already talked about. Document object model. Window has all the other APIs also, history, storage, location, and inside a document we can access the forms, anchors, images. Okay, so it's just giving you the brief overview how this works. We should be good at handling the different DOM events. We might be start using these frameworks, React, Angular, but what if you wanted to write and do the DOM manipulations using these native DOM APIs? Then you should be aware about how to access the children's, get a particular children by just looking at the ID and class and change its behavior, change the inner HTML, inner text, and styles. Okay, thanks everyone.